Hi, I'm Princess Ira E. Federico and I will be discuss the consumer choice and consumer theory.
What is consumer choice?
Consumer choice. It refers to a person's decision to purchase a good or not. Consumption, or the propensity to purchase goods, typically rises as income does. Additionally, it relies on how satisfied the customer is with the things they purchase. In microeconomics, the theory of consumer choices connects the preferences of consumers to consumptions and consumer demand curves. While considering consumer choices, production and consumptions are considered two different aspects. This is so because the two different economic agents are involved in the two.
What is consumer theory?
Consumer theory is the study of how people decide to spend their money based on their individual preferences and budget constraints. A branch of microeconomics, consumer theory shows how individuals make choices subject to how much income they have available to spend and the prices of goods and services. In short, consumer choice theory is a hypothesis about why people buy things. Put simply, it says that you choose to buy the things that give you the greatest satisfaction while keeping within your budget. For example, Lily is a consumer with a budget of 200 who must choose how to allocate her funds between pizza and video games, the bundle of goods. If a pizza costs 10 and a video game costs 50, Lily could buy 20 pizzas or 4 video games or even 5 pizzas and 2 video games. Alternatively, he could give all 200 in pocket. Consumer theory can help in this situation because it is a study where we can know how to spend the money and choose what is necessary. Consumer choice theory plays an important role in our day-to-day lives. As is obvious, it is a central subject to economics depending on which the consumption and use of goods and services take place. Consumer choice determines the competition and quality of goods that are produced and sold in the market. In that sense, it is the running force of all economics. Without consumer choice, there will be no variety or additional choices for any products in the market. That is why it is an important branch of study in economics.
Ang utility ay tumutukoy sa kasiyahan at mga benefits na nagmumula sa pag-consume natin ng mga kalakal o serbisyo. Ang pangunahing konseptong ito ay tumutulong sa mga ekonomista at analyst na maunawaan ang mga kadahilanan sa likod ng mga pagsasagwa ng mga tao at ang alokasyon ng mga yaman upang mapabuti ang kanilang kaginhawahan. With this, tatalakayin natin ang mga konsepto ng utility, iba't ibang paraan ng measurements, at ang kanilang kahalagahan sa larangan ng pagsusuri ng ekonomiya. And now, let's talk about the utility concepts. First is the aggregate utility. Ang aggregate utility ay sumasaklaw sa kahalagahan at kasiyahan ng tatamo natin mula sa paggamit ng tama ng isang produkto. Ito ay isang konsepto sa economics na tumutukoy sa kabuuang halaga ng kasiyahan o benepisyo na natatanggap ng isang grupo ng tao o lipunan mula sa paggamit ng nararamdaman ng lahat ng individual o household sa isang partikular na ekonomiya. Ang halimbawa nito ay kapag kumain tayo ng ice cream ay nagiging masaya tayo at napapasabi tayo ng craving satisfied. Ang aggregate utility nito ay tumutukoy sa kabuuang kasiyahan mula sa pagkain na ating naubos at gustong kainin. Number 2 is the incremental utility. Ang incremental utility ay tumutukoy sa pagbabago sa kabuuang utility na nagmumula sa pagkonsumo ng karagdagang unit ng isang produkto o serbisyo. Ito ay tumutulong sa mga individual na malaman ang tamang dime ng isang item na kailangan nilang kainin o bilhin upang mapabuti ang kanilang kasiyahan. Ang halimbawa nito ay kapag nagdagdag ka ng isang scoop ng ice cream sa baso. Ang incremental utility ay ang dagdag na kasiyahan na iyong naramdaman mula sa scoop na iyong inilagay. Third is the diminishing incremental utility. Ang utility na ito ay ang nagsasabing habang kumukonsumo ang isang tao ng mas maraming unit ng isang produkto, siya naman ang dagdag na kasiyahan mula sa bawat nakasunod na unit ay bumababa. In short, habang mas marami kang kinukonsumong produkto, mas bumababa ang incremental utility. Halimbawa nito ay sa umpisa. Ang pagkain ng isang slice ng cake ay sobrang masarap. Pero kapag kinain mo na ng mas marami, hindi mo na ma-enjoy ang bawat piraso dahil sa iba't ibang rason. Maaaring ikaw ay nauumay na o di kaya ay busog na.
Measurement. Methodologies.
First is the ordinal utility approach. Ang ordinal utility approach ay isang teorya sa economics na nagche-check sa paraan ng pagbibigay ng kahalagan ng tao sa mga serbisyo tungkol sa kanilang kahalagahan. Sa madaling salita, ito ay tumutukoy sa paraan ng pagtasa ng ating pagnanasa o kasiyahan sa mga bagay-bagay, ngunit hindi ito ang eksak na sukat o halaga. Halimbawa nito ay mas gusto mo ang pizza kaysa sa burger, pero hindi nito inilalarawan ang exact amount at exact ingredient ng iyong pagkakagusto. Number 2 is the cardinal utility approach. Ito ang paraan na nagbibigay ng exact numerical amount sa utility na nagpapadali ng mas eksaktong pagkukumpara sa pagitan ng mga individual at kalakal. Ngunit ang pagbibigay ng numerical na halaga sa utility ay maaaring maging subjective at komplikado. Ang halimbawa nito ay mas pinili mo ang pizza na may halagang 8 marka o grado kaysa sa burger na may 6 na marka o grado. Ito ay nagpapakita ng mas mataas na kasiyahan sa pizza. Third is the indifference curve analysis. Ito ay visual na paraan ng pagsusuri kung saan nilalagay ang indifference curve na nagpapakita ng iba't ibang kombinasyon ng kalakal na nagbibigay ng parehong antas ng kasiyahan sa isang individual. Ang slope ng mga kurba na ito ay nagpapakita kung gaano kabilis ang isang tao sa pagpapalit ng isang kalakal para sa isa pa. Ito ay nagpapakita kung gaano kabilis magpalit ng kagustuhan batay sa antas ng kasiyahan na iyong nararamdaman. Halimbawa nito ay meron kang ice cream, pero dahil may nakita kang cake na mukhang masarap, mas pinili mong bumili ng cake kaysa ubusin ng iyong ice cream.
Significance.
First is the consumer decision making. Ang konsepto ng utility na ito ay nagpapaliwanag kung paano nagdedesisyon ang mga customers sa pagpili at pagkonsumo sa isang produkto. Ang utility na ito ay nire-represent ang kasiyahan at kahalagahan na natatanggap ng consumer mula sa isang product o service. Halimbawa nito ay sa Angelica ay may pambili ng cellphone. Pinipili niya ang isang model na may magandang camera, malaking storage at matibay na baterya dahil alam niyang magdadala ito ng mas mataas na utility para sa kanya. Second is the pricing and demand. Ayon sa utility na ito, ang presyo ng isang produkto ay nakakaapekto sa dami ng mga consumer. Kapag bumaba ang presyo, mas maraming consumer ang naghahanap at bibili ng produkto dahil ito ay nagdudulot ng mas mataas na utility para sa kanila. Halimbawa na lang ang presyo ng ice cream. Ang presyo ng ice cream ay bumaba mula 100 pesos hanggang 50 pesos every tub. Dahil dito, mas maraming tao ang bumibili ng ice cream dahil mas affordable na. Kaya naman tumaas ang demand para sa produkto. Third is the implication for public policy. Ang pagsusuri ng utility na ito ay mahalaga sa pag-identify ng mga effects sa pampublikong pulisya sa kaginawahan ng mga consumer. Ito ay nagbibigay daan sa pag-aaral kung paano nakakatulong o nakakasama ang mga pulisya sa kaginawahan ng mga mamamayan. Halimbawa nito ay ang gobyerno ay nagpasa ng batas na nagpapataas ng presyo ng mga inumin na may mataas na asukal para mapigilan ang pagtaas ng mga kaso ng diabetes. Ito ay naglalayong protektahan ang kalusugan ng mga consumer with proper usage of controlling sa kanilang pagkonsumo ng matamis na inumin. Number 4 is production deliberations. Sa pagplano ng produksyon, mahalaga ang pag-unawa sa utility ng mga consumer para makabuo ng tamang dami at presyo ng produkto. Ito ay nagbibigay ng direksyon sa kung ano ang produkto ang dapat gawin at kung paano dapat ito maipasok sa market at merchandise. Ang halimbawa naman nito ay isang kumpanya ng sapatos ay gumawa ng sneakers na may magandang comfort features batay sa feedback at preference ng mga consumer. Ito ay upang matiyak ang kanilang produkto ay magdudulot ng mataas na utility para sa mga mamimili.
Challenges.
First is the subjectivity. Ang subjectivity ay mahirap sukatin o bigyan ng exact amount of significance and importance of happiness dahil ito ay nakaugat sa personal na pananaw at iba-iba ito sa bawat individual. Halimbawa, ang isang tao ay maaaring magbigay ng numerical amount of importance sa kanilang kasiyahan sa pagkain ng ice cream. Ang isang tao ay nagbigay ng score na 8 out of 10 sa kanyang kasiyahan sa pagkain ng ice cream, ngunit sa iba ay maaaring maging 5 out of 10 lang ito. Number 2 is fluctuating preference. Ang mga nais at kagustuhan ng mga mamimili ay maaaring magbago habang lumilipas ang panahon. kaya mahirap itong maipaliwanag at masukat. Halimbawa na lamang nito ay ang isang tao na dati ay mahilig sa technology at nag-aalok ng mataas na halaga sa mga gadgets. Ngunit sa paglipas ng panahon, maaaring magbago ang kanilang preference at bigyan na lamang ng mas mataas na halaga ang pagkakaroon ng quality time sa pamilya. Number 3 is incorporating non-material elements. Ang kasiyahan ng tao ay hindi lamang batay sa mga bagay na material. Dapat kabilang na dito ang emosyon, estado sa lipunan at pangangalaga sa kalikasan na nagdudulot din ng kasiyahan. Halimbawa ay ang pagtulong sa kapwa o ang pagtanggap ng papuri mula sa ibang tao ay maaaring magdulot ng kasiyahan sa isang individual, kahit na ito ay hindi may kinalaman sa pera o material na bagay.
Conclusion.
Ang mga konsepto ng utility at ang kanilang measurements ay mahalagang prinsipyo para sa pag-unawa sa pag-uugali ng individual, mga desisyon ng consumer, at ang pag-andar ng mga merkado. Ito ay nagbibigay ng mahalagang kaalaman sa paraan kung paano nag-a-allocate ng yaman ang mga individual upang maabot ang kanilang optimal na kaginhawahan. Bagaman may mga hamon sa measurements ng utility, patuloy na nagtutulungan ang mga ekonomista upang mapabuti ang konseptong ito para sa mas mahusay na pangunawa sa pagdedesisyon at pagsusuri ng ekonomiya.
Hi everyone, I'm Annie Talento Villacorta and I was assigned to tackle the topic about consumer equilibrium. What is consumer equilibrium?
Consumer equilibrium, it represents the point at which a consumer maximizes satisfaction or utility given their budget constraint and the prices of goods and services. In consumer equilibrium conditions based on the measurability, we can explain the conditions of consumer equilibrium under two approaches. First is the cardinal utility approach or the utility analysis, and the second one is the ordinal utility approach or the indifference curve analysis. The cardinal utility approach is a concept in economics used to measure and analyze individual preferences and choices. It's a way of assigning numerical values known as utility to represent the satisfaction or happiness that a person derives from consuming goods and services. There are two situations of consumer equilibrium based on cardinal utility analysis. First is the single commodity case, and the second one is the two commodities case. Consumer equilibrium for single commodity is guided by the law of diminishing marginal utility. This means that as a consumer buys more of a product, the additional satisfaction they get from each additional unit decreases. The consumer reaches maximum satisfaction or equilibrium when the price of the product equals the marginal utility or the additional satisfaction derived from that product.
Example. In this example, the consumer is spending their income on purchasing a single commodity, which is X. The price of X is 10 rupees per unit. The consumer's marginal utility in terms of money is provided in a table. In this example of single commodity consumption equilibrium, the consumer is buying product X price at 10 rupees per unit. The graph shows units of X on the x-axis and price or marginal utility on the y-axis. Equilibrium or the point E in the graph is where the marginal utility equals the price. At this point, the consumer maximizes satisfaction by purchasing 3 units of X for 10 rupees.
To achieve consumer equilibrium with two commodities, the consumer follows a rule called the equimarginal principle or the law of equimarginal utility. According to this principle, the consumer will allocate their money in such a way that the marginal utility or the extra satisfaction spent on each commodity is the same. So in other words, the consumer will keep buying more of each product until the additional satisfaction they get from spending one more on each product is equal.
Example. In this scenario, there are two goods, the burgers and sandwiches. The price of burgers is 4 rupees per unit, and the price of sandwiches is 6 rupees per unit. The consumer has an income of 50 rupees. The marginal utility of money is 11 per unit. This information sets the stage for analyzing how the consumer will allocate their budget between the two goods to maximize satisfaction while considering the prices and their income. In the graph, x-axis shows units of burgers and sandwiches, and y-axis represents the marginal utility of burgers and sandwiches, and marginal utility of money, and also point E is the consumer's equilibrium where burgers and sandwiches provides equal marginal utility. The consumer is most satisfied by buying 5 units each of burger and sandwiches, spending their 50 rupees income optimally. According to Paul A. Samuelson, the law of diminishing marginal utility tells us that as a person consumes more unit of a product, the additional satisfaction derived from each additional unit will diminish.
Difference curve is a chart showing various combinations of two goods or commodities that consumers can choose. At any point on the curve, the combination of two will leave the consumer equally well off or equally satisfied, hence indifferent. Ito ay nagpapakita ng kombinasyon ng pagkonsumo sa dalawang bagay na makapagbibigay ng parehong antas ng kasiyahan o satisfaction sa isang tao. Or sa economics, ito ay tinatawag nating utility. Ngayon naman ay suriin natin ang indifference curve na ito. As you can see, we only use two products, ang damit at ang pagkain. All points from point A to point D can give the same level of satisfactions or utility. For example, itong point A. Ang 12 na damit at ang isang pagkain ay makapagbibigay ng kasiyahan katulad ng kasiyahan na maibibigay din nitong point B, which is ang 6 na damit at 2 pagkain. Ganon din naman sa point C at point D. Let's give another example. If you like both hot dogs and hamburgers, you may be indifferent buying 20 hot dogs and no hamburgers, or 45 hamburgers and no hot dogs, or some combinations of the two. For example, 14 hot dogs and 20 hamburgers that you can see in point A. Either combination provides the same utility. Standard indifference curve analysis operate using a simple two-dimensional chart. Each axis represents one type of economic good. Along the indifference curve, a consumer will have no preference between any of the combinations of goods represented by points on the curve. This is because the combination of goods on an indifference curve provide the same level of utility to the consumer. A young boy might be indifferent between processing 2 comic books and 1 toy truck, or 4 toy trucks and 1 comic book. So both of these combination would be points on an indifference curve of the young boy. Indifference curve analysis. Indifference curves operate under many assumptions. For example, each indifference curve is typically convex to the origin, and no two indifference curves ever intersect. Consumers are always assumed to be more satisfied when achieving bundles of goods on indifference curves that are further from the origin. Many core principles of microeconomics appear in indifference curve analysis, including individual choice, marginal utility theory, income, substitution effects, and the subjective theory of value. Now let's talk about the properties of indifference curves. Indifference curves assume that individuals have stable and ordered preferences and seek to minimize their utility. As a result, indifference curves will have these four properties. First, indifference curve is downward sloping. Second, The slope of the indifference curve is convex. Third, curves plotted higher and farther to the right correspond with higher level of utility. And fourth, various indifference curves can never cross or overlap.
Hi everyone, good day. I am Jericho Icaranza and now we'll be discussing the budget line. In this video, we will learn the definition of the budget line and how the budget line affects our choices and decision of our lives. So are you guys ready? Let's go! So, what is a budget line? A budget line shows the combination of two products that a consumer can afford with a given income, using all of their available budget. The gradient of the budget line reflects the relative process of the two products. The gradient of the budget line reveals the opportunity cost. Now, how the budget line shift? The budget line shift when there is, first, a change in the prices of one or two products with nominal income remaining the same. Number 2, a change in the level of nominal income with the relative prices of the two products remaining the same. For you to be able to understand, let's have an example. My monthly budget is 600 pesos. One student cinema ticket will cost 60 pesos. Casual dining per meal will cost 120 pesos. Now, let's proceed to the budget line combinations. The first option is, I'll buy 10 cinema tickets but no meals out. The second one, I'll buy 5 meals out but no cinema tickets. The third one is I'll buy 6 cinema tickets and 2 meals out. And the last one, I'll buy 4 meals and 2 cinema tickets. Each of these combinations would lie on the budget line at current prices and current monthly budget. Okay, let's have another example. The budget line shows the combination of two products that can be afforded at current price and with all income spent. For example, my weekly income is 400 pesos. The price of sausages is 20 pesos per kilogram, and the price of chicken wings is 50 pesos per kilogram. Now, the consumer could buy 10 kilograms of sausages and 4 kilograms of chicken wings. Or, the consumer could buy 8 kilograms of chicken wings but no sausages. Or, the consumer could buy 20 kilograms of sausages but no chicken wings. And now, let's proceed to a change in prices. Now, we will know what will happen to our choices if the price change. For example, my weekly income is 400 pesos. The price of sausages is 20 pesos per kilogram, and the price of chicken wings is 25 pesos per kilogram. In this graph, the consumer could buy 10 kilograms of sausages and 8 kilograms of chicken wings. Or, the consumer could buy 20 kilograms of sausages but no chicken wings. Or, the consumer could buy 16 kilograms of chicken wings but no sausages. And the last one is the change in incomes. For example, my weekly budget is 300 pesos. The price of sausages is 20 pesos per kilogram, and the price of chicken wings is 50 pesos per kilogram. Now, in this graph, the consumer could buy 10 kilograms of sausages and 2 kilograms of chicken wings. Or, the consumer could buy 15 kilograms of sausages but no chicken wings. Or, the consumer could buy 6 kilograms of chicken wings but no sausages.
Income effect is the change in the consumption of goods based on income. It explains how the demand for a good and service changes when a consumer purchasing power changes. Purchasing power refers to what you are able to purchase, and it changes when your real income changes. This means consumers will generally spend more if they experience an increase in income. They may spend less if their income drops. For example, if your income goes up by 2,000 pesos a month, you might decide to put part of that money toward eating out at a restaurant twice a month instead of once a month. Since your income directly rose and there was an effect on the demand for restaurant meals, this is an example of the income effect. By contrast, if your favorite restaurant cuts the price of your favorite meal in half, you can suddenly afford to buy it twice as often. Your buying power has risen, even if your income doesn't change at all. You now feel wealthier and can eat out more than you could afford previously. This is another example of the income effect. Even though your real income didn't directly change, your purchasing power did. The effect doesn't dictate the kinds of goods consumers will buy. They may opt to purchase more expensive goods in lesser quantities or cheaper goods in higher quantities, depending on their circumstances and preferences. The income effect can be both direct or indirect when a consumer chooses to make changes to the way they spend. Because of the change in income, the income effect is said to be direct. An income effect becomes indirect when a consumer is faced with making buying choices because of factors not related to their income. Some of these factors are changes in price, currency exchange fluctuations, supply and demand. For example, a change in the price of a good will alter the effective buying power of your income. Even if your income stays the same, if the price of something you buy frequently goes down, you can afford to buy more of it. This means your buying power has risen. By contrast, if the price goes up, you can buy less of it, or if it is something you need to continue purchasing, you may buy the same amount but decrease how much of something else you purchase. How does the income effect work? As your income rises, you likely will change how much you spend on different goods and services. A good is considered to be a normal good if you buy more of it when your income or buying power increases. A good is considered to be an inferior good if you buy less of it when your income or buying power increases. For example, you may often buy generic canned goods at the grocery store because it costs less, but if your income goes up, you might switch to name brand canned goods. In this case, generic canned goods would be an inferior good, while name brand canned goods would be a normal good. Substitution effect is a change in consumption patterns due to changes in the relative prices of goods and services. Consumers replace more expensive products with cheaper ones. So if the price of a product rises, consumers switch and increase the demand for substitute products. It explains how relative price changes affect consumer choices. When choosing a product, consumers will consider its price as well as the price of alternative products. The concept comes from the cross-price elasticity of demand. Here are some common examples of substitution effect. 1. Pork prices rise and consumers respond by purchasing more chicken. Price increases in designer pharmaceutical drugs lead to customers to buy generic alternatives. Consumers who drink orange juice for its vitamin C witness an increase in orange juice prices due to a crop failure and respond by buying cranberry juice.